CST 239. This is milestone 6. So we were given an assessment description that basically asked us to construct an administrative application that will be received and processed by the administrative service class that we need to implement in the storefront application. So it has to be able to do the following 2 things. It needs to be able to have a command U that will update the store inventory, and it needs to have a command R that will return all the soluble products in that inventory in the form of a JSON file, or in the JSON format, I should say. It should run in the background as such that it does not impact the user while the interaction in the storefront application. We should leverage the file server to read and write JSON inventory data files. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the code. I'll go ahead and start in the storefront application class. Main differences here is that we had to initialize the admin client thread and start it. I chose 2 different port numbers for the admin server. From there, go straight into our main while loop. And the last thing in here is to close the admin client thread. I apologize, as I do have pneumonia right now, so I probably sound like a frog. Moving on. With some changes inside my inventory manager class as well. We had to go ahead and load the inventory from a JSON file. I did this locally, so I went ahead and created a class loader, used an input stream from the directory of the new JSON inventory file, and then went ahead and hit an if statement to go ahead and handle exception, and then read the contents of the file using a buffer reader and a string builder. From there, go ahead and have try and catch box, convert the JSON data into an array of soluble objects and add them into the inventory. Sorry, that was before the try and catch boxes, but I'm trying to move through as fast as possible because I can't talk very well. So another method that was added into my inventory manager was the process admin command. So this is what allows us to process the commands from the client threads. So the first is a U. This will update the inventory from JSON and deliver a payload and return a message that it was successful. The R in this case is going to go ahead and retrieve that inventory and convert it into a JSON formatted file. The next method was update inventory from JSON. This was done by creating an object mapper to map the JSON data to I apologize, to the objects. Then using a try and catch box, I was able to map the JSON data to an array of soluble objects, loop through the array of soluble objects, and add the soluble object to the inventory with its quantity. The next method is the write inventory to JSON file method. It creates an object mapper to map the inventory to JSON data. It gets the current inventory and puts it in a hash map, and then writes the inventory hash map as a JSON data file with a specified path. Sorry. Then had to create an admin service class that implements Runnable. This looks familiar because it's from the activity, so it was definitely helpful. Thank you. 2 private variables. One is an object and one is an integer. From there we have our construct and then our run method. In the run method I have a while loop that indefinitely to handle client connections creates a socket, a buffer reader to read data from the client, and a print write to create a new print writer to send data to the client. Sorry. From there, we read the input line from the client using if statements. Input data is not null. If the input data is you, load the inventory from JSON file and send a successful message. if the input data is R, handle R command to write current inventory to a JSON file. Set the file path where the inventory will be written and send a successful message. We would close our in, we close our out, and we close our client socket to clean up. And then we have a catch box in case we get an exception, so that way we can know a little bit better about what's going on. I utilized a print statement there to make sure while I was troubleshooting, which I needed, I could try and figure out what was going on to try and correct whatever I needed to within the class. From there, I created an admin client thread that extends a thread. The code defines a class admin thread that extends the thread class. This class is responsible for starting multiple instances of the administrative service class that we just went over, which handles administrative commands such as updating the inventory, writing, etc., what we just went over. The admin client class takes an instance of the inventory manager and an array port number as an input parameter in its construct, and then runs the method. Overrides the run method of the thread class and starts a new instance of administrative service class for each port number in the array, and then starts a new thread for each administrative service instance. This is rather small code for the thread extension. Then I created two admin client classes. They represent the connections to the administrative server using a socket connection. The client can send commands to the server to manage the inventory of a storefront. The class prompts the user to enter a command, and then they can load or they can write the inventory to file. If the user enters an unrecognized command, the class will print an error message. All right, finally, the class closes the input and output streams in the socket connection. Oh. All right. I made sure to comment heavy because talking right now sucks. And I had to kind of write a little paragraph so I could try and get through this a little bit faster, so I apologize. Let's go ahead and run this guy. Where's my URL? Come here. There you are. All right. Got here. Okay. So then can run him. So here is our storefront. As you can see, we can go ahead and push that we want to get a mace. We can get two of them and get some stuff. Then we're going to go and pop on over here to our first client class. So it's connected to the server, and I can go ahead and send the U command so we can load the new inventory from the JSON file, which is successful. Let's go and test that theory. So let's pop back over. And as you can see, we still see the same inventory. So I'm gonna pick one more thing real quick. Another mace, cool. But now our inventory has now been updated. And you can see I can get all sorts of fun stuff now from the new inventory I loaded. I got mana now if you're a spellcaster, or specific legendary weapon objects and potentially armor. So a little bit more fun stuff to pick from. I'll go ahead and pick like 16, Spear of the Amazon. So I kind of got a little Diablo on this, I guess, if you will. Let's go ahead and do 18 because that's the Spear. That's the Rampart of Lazarus. So cool. I want to go ahead and at this point go to my second socket and hit a capital R and write to my written JSON file here. As you can see, it has written out a string in the format of a JSON file. Pain in the butt, but I have copied it over and looked at it in a text file, and it is proper. There, let's just go ahead and go back to the storefront, and we will hit 0. And as you can see, it still updates our shopping cart with the proper items that were purchased, regardless of where they were in the update process. Thank you, CST239. milestone 6.